A reminder, the fencing strip, I think you all know this, but there's the end, there's 2 meters, 3 meters, 2 meters to the middle. Same on the other side, it's a mirror image. Total of 14 meters. How does a meter relate to a yard? Do you remember? A meter is 1 yard plus about 10%. So it's 36 inches plus 3 inches, a little more. 14 meters is the same as 14 yards plus an extra 10%. So that's about 1.5, something around 15.5 yards. How many feet are in a yard? I assume you know that. There are 3 feet in a yard. 14 yards equals 42 feet plus another 10%. So it's about 46 feet long. One way to remember this is to think about things in your world that are about that long. Maybe you have a tape measure or some other way of measuring 50 feet, and then you subtract a little bit, and that gives you the length of the strip. Last week, we talked about this very famous play and movie, Cyrano de Bergerac, one of the great stories of Western literature. Reminder, Cyrano has a really big nose, as you can see, but he's so accomplished. He's a swordsman, he's a poet, he's a musician, he's a soldier as well as a swordsman. But he's embarrassed and he can't tell Roxanne he loves her because he's embarrassed of his nose. You will recall, hopefully, that a man named Valvera mocks him by saying something rather dull. Your nose is rather large. Cyrano then has a long speech where he says, boy, there's a lot of things you could have said, but you're too stupid. So they have a duel, and Cyrano, to show off how smart he is, makes up a very formal poem while they fight. He does it extemporaneously. Crowd loves it. Very famous scene. And the 1950 Hollywood movie I mentioned has beautiful fencing in it. So I really recommend that, and I will put the link again in the post to parents. There's another great sword fight scene in that movie, and that's this situation. The movie alters the play slightly. Cyrano, here he is again, has a friend named Ragueneau, who's a chef, as you can see by his hat. But Ragueneau is also a poet, and he wrote some satirical verse criticizing the powerful Comte de Guiche. Comte means a count. So this guy's an aristocrat, very powerful, and Ragueneau made fun of him, the way people make fun of people in political power all the time. So de Guiche, who's kind of a weenie, hired 100 men, can you believe it, to attack Ragueneau as he goes home. Well, Ragueneau gets wind of this, and he says to Cyrano, can you please help me? Can I stay at your place? I can't go home, they'll kill me. And Cyrano, who's all pumped up and brave because he's just heard from Roxanne that she'd like to meet with him, he says, are you kidding? You're going home tonight. How many men? 100? Who cares? And so they start out on the journey to the house, and sure enough, there are 100 guys stalking them. And then follows this really great sword fight scene, completely unrealistic, of course, which is half the point of Cyrano anyway. It's supposed to be a romance in the sense of being a big adventure. And he fights one, he fights the other, he fights 3 at a time, and of course he vanquishes them all, gets rid of them. At one point, 3 guys face him down, they all lunge, and he disarms them all in one single swoop, throws their swords over his shoulder, stamps his feet, and off they run. So this is the famous Jose Ferrer 1950 Hollywood version. And it's because it's a movie and not a play, they really do this highly practiced, and there's a lot of really good fencing in it. I cannot recommend this movie enough. I think it's possibly a little corny for people of your generation, but it's a good story, and it's got great sword fighting in it. And in terms of themes, one of the themes of this story is that what do we do if we don't accept ourselves? Here's a guy who's super accomplished, but the one thing he can't accept is the way he looks. And everybody has something like that they can't accept about themselves, personality or something physical. So it really hits a very universal human theme. Anyway, I will post this on the mailing I send out in a little bit, and I really hope you will sit and watch the entire movie. All right, thanks. See you next week.